Thank you so much and welcome to Coffee with Keep Arizona Blue Student Coalition, where we get into all things politics over a cup of coffee. And today we're excited to be joined by AFL-CIO Secretary, Treasurer, and Executive Director Fred Yamashita. And Fred started in the grocery industry and through that has served as a union leader for decades. So thank you so much, Fred. And I'm just really excited you joined us today.
Thank you, Francesca, and I'm more than happy to be on with all of you and your coalition.
Thank you so much. So we always open up our show really by explaining what drink we bought and why it means to us. So I'll go first. I brought a Cat's Delicatessen mug because I went there over this past summer in New York. What mug or what drink did you happen to bring today?
So I brought a drink that asks the question, who is the labor movement? Because I think it's a very important question today. How do we see ourselves?
Yeah, no, that is a good one. And it makes you think a little bit. And so kind of going right off of that, what was kind of like to you, like what was your first introduction to the labor movement? And just what influenced you to become so heavily involved with workers' rights to begin with?
Yeah, I know that I do tell people that I started in the grocery industry because that's the industry that really helped propel me into the actual labor movement itself. But I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, which is a heavily union town. And my first job, I was a machinist working in a factory making axle housings. It's my first union job. And that's when I experienced my first work action. We walked off the job because the working conditions were so bad. And we were all terminated for a wildcat strike. But our union helped us get our job back. The conditions were so bad in which there were no operating fans in the plant. It was 120 degrees in the plant. And so we were brought back to work. We were vindicated by through our grievance that we filed with the machinist union and offered our jobs back with our seniority and back pay. And I think that's really what propelled me.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people have a story like that. And so like being able to kind of connect it to like that was like almost your first introduction to it. And that also like kind of goes into my next question, like, you know, when it comes to workers' rights, like we hear in Arizona, especially like the term right to work, it sounds like a great term. But for anyone who doesn't know that's listening, it makes it much more difficult for workers to actually band together and stand up for higher wages and better conditions. And as Arizona is a right to work state, and I know you said like your prior experience was Detroit, the state is very different. Kind of how have you seen the movement change over the past decade and kind of what do you see for the future of labor unions in Arizona, but also nationwide as well?
Yeah, so after I left Detroit in 1978, it's when I first started working in the grocery industry in Los Angeles, California. And Michigan was a secure shop state, as was California. In other words, if you worked for a union company, you were required to be a union member. But when I moved to Arizona in 1992, working for virtually the same company as I left California, Albertsons, which was union in California, but not union in Arizona. Working for the same company, doing the same job title, I made $4 an hour less here in Arizona. And so I think that was one of the indicators that right to work was not good for workers. And I just didn't understand the history of right to work in Arizona, which stems all the way back to 1947. And so because of that, most workers, especially workers that were born here in Arizona or moved here when they were young, really don't know any other system other than right to work. And so I think when I first moved here and realized that I wasn't going to make the same money, and it was because of the right to work laws here, you're essentially an at will employee. You could be terminated with or without just cause. And that really, I think, at that point in time, made me make a decision whether I was just going to suffer in silence and complain about it to my coworkers or my family, or was I actually going to try to work to do something about it to change it? And that's what I decided at that time.
Yeah. And that definitely, I think like what you said earlier, like, oh, you transitioned from Los Angeles to Arizona and like initially you didn't like understand what right to work was at the time. I think a lot of people, especially who are native to Arizona or who have never experienced what it's like to have worker benefits, do think that it's the norm to just be terminated for any reason whatsoever, no matter what. But it shouldn't be the norm because that means less worker protections. And so I think we will see like an increasing. I know recently we also had like hot labor summer, and so we kind of know that especially people of my generation and young people, like Gen Z, has just been standing up for workers' rights. They just may not associate it necessarily with a union. And so, like, what really do you think young people should take away from this so that they can connect the values they hold with, oh, I actually am able to unionize and get further involved in the labor movement?
It's a great question, Francesca. And whether you're like myself, a baby boomer, or you're Gen Z, we all make up the labor movement. And what I think that the current labor leaders, if you will, the elected officers or union representatives, business agents that really have had this tendency to, I think, for the most part, categorize younger workers as young workers, as opposed to now really looking at the group of workers that are um, in the news all the time, whether they're at the Amazon um, uh, warehouses or Starbucks coffee shops or at REI outdoor centers. That workers today that want a union, that want to be unionized, are looking for different benefits of collective power. So it's not always just about wages and benefits, but it's also about having more say and more control in the workplace itself and the companies that they work for.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a really good point. And so kind of what would you say to young people who are just kind of first like getting involved, I guess, with the labor movement? How would you say like their best bet is to kind of fit into that?
Well, I had this experience when I first started out in Los Angeles. Some long term meat cutters caught me on my break and said, "Hey, they're going to threaten our pension. Um, and if they freeze our pensions, we're going to go on strike." And I had just moved to Los Angeles. I was on my own for the first time. I didn't have any real education per se or any specialized training, but they made me realize the reason why I took that job in the grocery store. And it was exactly for the wages and benefits and protections that many of them had fought for many years. And so I would just say that as someone who is now reaping the benefits of those um, benefits that they won and through collective bargaining and protected all these years, that you have that opportunity as a worker today to protect the things that are important to you, to fight for the things that are important to you and possibly your family in the near future, and that all the power is within your grasp just by being committed and acting.
Yeah. No, I think that's really great. And a lot of young people see the work that people have put in for generations, as you said, and now have the ability to actually shape their future. And it really is about getting young people to understand what is directly impacting them, and that is their workplace. So thank you so much, Fred, for kind of joining us today and really explaining what the labor movement looks like in the state of Arizona and how young people play a part in that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do and your coalition. I know that we've had many opportunities to work together, and so I really appreciate Keep Arizona Blue.